If you had told me years ago that one day I'd be training for a half marathon, documenting my workouts online, and recording a podcast about losing weight, I would not have believed you. There was a point in my life where I weighed 632 pounds. There was a point where walking felt impossible. There was a point where I thought I had already blown my chance. I've lost hundreds of pounds. I've regained weight. I've injured my back. I've had surgery. I've had setbacks that took years to climb out of. I've started over more times than I can count. And honestly, for a long time, I thought starting over meant I had failed. But somewhere along the way, I realized something. Success for me isn't perfection. It isn't never missing a workout. It isn't eating perfectly. It isn't losing weight every single week. It's showing up. Again and again and again. Even after setbacks, even after bad days, even after losing momentum. So this podcast isn't going to be me pretending to have all the answers. It's going to be me documenting what this actually looks like. The good weeks, the frustrating weeks, the wins, the setbacks, the training, the process. And maybe if you're trying to improve something in your own life too, we can keep showing up together. I'm Stephen Vincent. You are listening to the Keep Showing Up Stephen podcast, the weekly documentary of my weight loss journey, half marathon training, and learning how to build a life one day at a time. Welcome to the first episode. I'm starting this podcast to share more of the story behind my weight loss and fitness journey and to expand on the weekly progress updates I already post on social media. This is an audio-only podcast, so you can listen whenever it fits your life, during your commute, while working out, on a walk, or just in your spare time. Every Monday, a new episode will be published. Weekly episodes will follow a consistent structure so you know what to expect each week, and I can focus on telling the story instead of rambling for 30 to 45 minutes. This isn't a fitness or nutrition advice podcast. It's a weekly documentary of trying, failing, adjusting, continuing anyway, and showing up. Maybe you'll hear something that helps with your own goals. Maybe it motivates you to keep showing up for yourself. Either way, my goal is to give you something worthwhile for spending part of your week with me. Let's start at my beginning, and I mean my beginning. I was born on September 28th, 1979 in Birmingham, Alabama. My father passed away suddenly from complications following gastric bypass surgery in 1980, and my mom never remarried after that. Growing up, I was always the biggest kid in school. I attended public school through 4th grade, then transferred to a local private Christian school for the rest of my education. The entire school, from kindergarten through 12th grade, had around 200 students total, so it was a very small environment where everyone knew everyone. My weight became something I started noticing because other people noticed it first. I remember kids teasing me about my size on the elementary school playground. Later in 6th grade, I expressed interest in a girl and was told I was too fat. Middle school PE was another place where I became very aware of my body. The locker room was basically one small room where all the boys changed together. No lockers, no showers, and moments like changing shirts felt impossible to hide in. After finishing school and starting to work over the years, food became more than food for me. It became comfort, entertainment, a reward, a coping mechanism. At the time, my brain never really connected eating habits with body size or long-term health. I only understood that eating made me feel good in the moment. Portions weren't measured. I would eat until the food was gone, or until I felt completely stuffed. Pizza, fried chicken, burgers, whatever was there, fast food was convenient, easy, and always available. And honestly, a lot of my eating habits were built around convenience. Breakfast might be a drive-through, lunch might be a drive-through, dinner might be takeout or something quick at home, like cooking a pack of hot dogs and eating however many I wanted. There wasn't much thought given to portions, nutrition, or what those habits might add up to over time. I was on autopilot. And honestly, exercise wasn't a part of my life at all. When I wasn't working, I was at home being a couch potato. Going out with friends usually involved a bar or alcohol in some sort of fashion. That was my normal. Before I go any further, I want to say that my health overall is better than a lot of people might assume looking at my size. I do have high blood pressure that's controlled with medication. I have hypothyroidism that's managed with medication. I have depression, which I treat with both medication and therapy. And I have sleep apnea that I manage with a CPAP machine. In 2009, when I was 29 years old at my highest recorded weight of 632 pounds, one of my friends, who happened to be a personal trainer, sat me down and talked to me about my size, my health, and what I could do to start moving toward a healthier life. What stands out to me all these years later is that he wasn't judgmental. He treated me like a person. That conversation became the first real spark. At the time, blogging was huge, so I started a blog called Who Ate My Blog, and documented my weight loss journey publicly. I started walking. Walking worked because it wasn't overwhelming. I could do it almost anywhere. I could put on headphones, disappear into a playlist, and keep moving. The first 100 pounds came off quickly, within a few months. The next 200 pounds took longer. But eventually I got all the way down to 312 pounds through walking and maintaining a calorie deficit. When I got into the upper 300s, I even started jogging and tried CrossFit for a while. Things were going really well. Then I injured my back. I ruptured my L5-S1 disc and developed numbness in my left foot and calf. I tried physical therapy. I tried pain procedures. Eventually I had surgery. The surgery itself went well, but during recovery, something started feeling very wrong. I developed a high fever, horrible headaches, and felt so sick I wouldn't even drive. Eventually, I realized my surgical site was infected and went to the emergency room. That led to emergency surgery, a week in the hospital, 6 weeks recovering at home with a PICC line for IV antibiotics, and a wound vac. Eventually, I recovered. But recovery physically and recovery mentally turned out to be two different things. The exercise stopped. The anxiety got louder. Old eating habits came back. I used food to cope with pain, stress, and frustration, and my weight slowly started climbing again. Even after the infection was gone, it took years before I felt physically capable of really getting back into exercise. Around 2013, I moved to Canada and got married. Around 2021, I got divorced, moved back to Birmingham, and moved in with my mom, who is sick and bedbound. Since then, I've done my best to help take care of her. Over these past few years, I've struggled with depression, alcohol, and eating far more than I needed. Eventually, my weight climbed back up into the mid-500s. In 2024, I made progress again, but regained some of it. And honestly, that's a pattern I knew very well. Start. Stop. Do well. Lose momentum. Start again. But this year feels different, not because I suddenly discovered some secret, not because I became more disciplined overnight. I already knew what to do. I just had to start executing again. That's where Keep Showing Up Stephen came from. I know the phrase isn't original, and I genuinely don't care. Because this isn't about originality. It's about showing up. Showing up for myself. Showing up for the people I love. Showing up on the days I feel motivated and the days that I don't. I'm not perfect, but I show up. And eventually, that philosophy started turning into action. This year started to feel different, not because of dramatic change, but because I started building consistency. So where am I today? This year started quietly. In January, I walked most days and averaged around half a mile per day. Nothing dramatic, but it helped me rebuild the habit of moving every day and create a foundation. February was less consistent. I skipped days here and there, and at one point I even skipped an entire week. My movement wasn't consistent, and my food tracking wasn't either, but somehow I still lost 8 pounds. March improved on the movement side. I averaged around a mile a day, sometimes a little more, but my eating was all over the place, and I ended up gaining 6 pounds. Then April happened. Back in 2024, when I had success losing weight, one thing that motivated me was maintaining a movement streak in Apple Fitness. I got up to 55 consecutive days, and I realized something about myself. When I move every day, I generally feel better and make better choices. So I committed to daily movement again. But this time I intentionally set the bar low. I once heard someone say you have to plan for your worst day, not your best day, and that stuck with me. My worst day might be a chest cold, it might be soreness, it might be injury. So I made the goal simple, at least 15 minutes of intentional movement every day. That's it. Because I was already walking most days, I started thinking, what if I actually trained for something? Years ago, I walked a half marathon and lost a significant amount of weight during that season of life. So, on April 20th, after realizing my body was tolerating longer distances well, I signed up for the Rocket City Half Marathon in December. That commitment became the glue. Since then, consistency has come more naturally because there's always something to work toward. And when problems pop up, I adapt instead of quitting. As my walking distances increased, I learned pretty quickly that recovering from longer walks matters. I also had new aches and pains show up, which thankfully settled down over time. But I know there will be days when walking isn't the right answer. So I rejoined the gym and started swimming again. Swimming has become one of my favorite tools because I can get a long workout without beating up my joints. Yes, I swim freestyle with a snorkel, and I know some people would probably do it differently or that I'm missing certain benefits. That's okay. This works for me. I've always loved the water, and right now it helps me stay consistent. As I lose weight and build more fitness, I've noticed my endurance and energy improving. I take advantage of that by gradually increasing my walking distances, swimming more often, and occasionally doing both on the same day. But I still work within what my body can handle. Since April 1st, I've been on a mission. From April through June, I've averaged 12.67 pounds lost per month. My clothes fit differently, my endurance is improving, and maybe more importantly, I've become incredibly consistent. Not perfect, consistent. I've maintained my daily movement streak. There have been days where I was tired and absolutely didn't want to move, but I still did something. I've also tracked my food every single day. Good days, bad days, days I stayed on target, days I went over. Because I've learned that one bad day doesn't ruin progress, but disappearing for a week can. So if I have an off day, I track it, accept it, and do better tomorrow. That's where I'm at today. Before I wrap up this first episode, I want to encourage you. No matter what goal you're trying to achieve, try something. Take one step toward it. No matter how discouraged you are by where you are today, or by how things have gone in the past, start anyway, and find what works for you. That's one of the biggest things I've learned through years of ups and downs, successes and setbacks. There isn't one perfect way to do this. For me, what finally clicked wasn't perfection. It wasn't motivation. It was finding a way to keep showing up consistently. Your version of showing up may look completely different than mine. You may not be training for a half marathon. You may not be trying to lose weight. Your goal might be health, relationships, recovery, work, creativity, or simply getting through a difficult season. But every week, I'm going to document what this process actually looks like. The wins, the setbacks, the adjustments, and continuing anyway. And if somewhere along the way this helps you keep showing up for yourself too, then this podcast will be worth making. Thanks for spending part of your week with me. No matter where you're starting, keep showing up.